Hello, this is Jack Bear. Go by that or Jack most places, but kind of wanted to share today a tool that I kind of developed expanding upon the uh, card tracker, the inventory tracker that's on the PC's website. I showed this to a couple people last year at in-person events, and a couple of them were kind of interested in what I was doing, and so I figured I'd polish it up a bit, write a few little instructions, and kind of get it out to the world and see if it helps anybody else. So it's basically an inventory management tool. So you just put in all the cards you got and how many of each card from each set. But then, kind of from that, you take a deck list from GEMP and you tell it you're going to build the deck. And so what that means is you're physically putting together the deck. So it tracks, which cards you're putting into that deck, both the physical cards, and then if you're using a virtual card, the backing card that you're using, and then what deck that goes into. From there, if you then go to try to build another deck, what I found when I started doing multiple in-person events is trying to find a particular card or something like that to build a new deck where it was hiding in a different deck, and I needed to find it and kind of make sure that it was quickly found, or not spending time just going through every deck. So that's one of the reasons I developed this tool. The other thing it does is, as you take apart decks, you might not take apart the virtual cards, especially if it's a common or an uncommon or something backing it. And so then you still have an assembled virtual card, and then later, when you go to build a deck, if you just put everything into the V kit, you're printing out extra slips that you've already made and that type of thing. So it kind of keeps track of cards you've made that aren't necessarily in decks as well, and helps you generate your V kit lists. Where are you getting all your physical cards from to build a new deck? Do you have to steal some from other decks? Do you not own some? And it kind of gives you a report as you build a deck. So I will quickly take you through the whole system here. I kind of went in from a spreadsheet and added buttons and things, which you can do in Google Sheets, and some scripting. And then that allows it to function less as a spreadsheet. You're not doing spreadsheet entry as much as importing a deck list from GEMP, pushing some buttons and building a deck, and getting some feedback from that. So less inventory or less spreadsheet management and more just kind of knowing where everything is. I will say off the bat, Google Sheets or Excel is not a full database. It's not a website type database where two-way traffic works perfectly. So it's a little slow in places. It's kind of to get around that. You have to do some tricks to kind of get around some of the limitations, but it works. And I do some checking as far as syntax or duplicates and that kind of thing, but you could break it. It's pretty easy to break. So approach it with some kid gloves. I'm always open to feedback, always open to change things. If you're finding bugs, if you're finding things that you'd like, I'm always happy to talk about it. So it's a multiple tab spreadsheet here. The first kind of tab is just your table of contents. It's got links to the different sheets. So starting off, the first tab is your basic full card list from the PC. I've added a few columns and kind of hidden everything, but the big thing as far as adding in your collection is adding in the count of each card you have. So how many A Tremor in the Force do you have from Premiere? Black border, how many do you got from white border? And kind of going through. And I put some dummy data in this one. This will be available for download, so you can kind of find it, as well as a blank one, which with all zeros. So I think a decent amount of people have been using this sheet. You'll see, you'll see all the familiar things that that the sheet had, the existing sheet has, as well as some new columns. But for the sake of this sheet, we're really focused on a set, a card name, and how many you got. And you'll go down here, and eventually you'll get to the virtual cards. On those, you're not actually putting a count in. It is doing that for you. So you don't have to put any data in. You're just putting the data in for your physical cards that you have. So again, talking to a lot of people, I think a decent amount of people have this data already existing, and that's kind of why I wanted to expand from the sheet, is because you may already have these counts, or roughly these counts, maybe just for rares or something, in a spreadsheet already that you could. The order is the same, so you could copy and paste it into the sheet. So that'll kind of help you out. So from there, we'll skip ahead a little to kind of go through the other things this now adds. So the first thing is a GEMP deck converter. So what this does is you take a deck, either download a deck list from the PC website, or if you've built a deck in GEMP, you can save it and open the TXT, which just kind of looks like this. You don't have to do anything with it other than copy, and then we'll just paste it right here. So what this is doing is it's going to convert it here to basically the values and the data that this sheet can use to kind of create this deck list. So I will save it, and we'll give it a name. And this was such a course for Alderaan nonsense deck. And then it'll reset this page back to that. So you're ready to paste another deck if you got another one. So from there, you kind of add in the deck list that you want to build. You can add in a budget deck list. The sample one comes with basically the top 8 people from World, their day 1 and day 2 decks. And then from there, you can build decks with it. So there's tools to build a virtual cards, disassemble virtual cards. So that's literally the physical process of, I'm going to take the slip off, and now my physical cards go back into inventory. You can build your deck with that deck list that you just imported. And then you can also see your existing deck lists and decks that you have physically built. So what we'll kind of do here is the next step. We've imported a deck list. So now we will maybe build some virtual cards. So you can choose individual cards to build, and this will give you a pull down of all the cards. Or really, if you have a deck list in your system, you can go through and kind of Google Sheets kind of bounces around based on your window size and everything else, what you want. So if we grab that set your course for Alderaan deck we brought in, and that's all we're gonna build. You could select multiple decks again. Oh, now put the down here. You can select multiple decks, but we'll just stick to one right now. So it's going to give you a list of all of the virtual cards from that deck list and the backing card with it. Now, with the recent rule change, for full slip cards, which are those are the ones that are highlighted in yellow here, you do not have to use the matching, or they're not enforcing the matching for the backing card to be correct. So, and again, it's so for long concussion rifle, there's an AI that's a full slip. So if you wanted to, you can just use that, but you can also just override it and select whatever backing card you're going to use. And the reason that this is opening the opportunity here to specify is when you build this virtual card, what you're doing is telling the system, I'm physically taking that backing card, whichever one you're specifying, and putting it with this slip. So now the system knows that backing card is with that slip. It is no longer just available to build a deck with. So that's kind of something that you want to specify if you are going to change the backing slip from something else. So we'll make fusion generator supply tanks. I got a bunch of those. So we'll go ahead and build these virtual cards. And so it's going to run and think about it for a little bit. So you'll see up here, there's always, if it's thinking or running a script, it's going to kind of run up here and then kind of give you some prompts. So some of these scripts take a little bit longer than others, but I tried to kind of write some feedback to give that. So we've now made those virtual cards, or at least told the computer that those virtual cards are made. So those physical cards are slapped together with that virtual slip, and it's somewhere. We haven't built a deck yet, so the cards exist, and you'll kind of see in here, we built a few other decks in this sample data, so you can find all of your built, quote-unquote, built virtual cards using these filters, or you can show all of them and what backing cards you're using. Again, it is highlighting if you used a backing card that is not the preferred card, because these are what you've told the system you physically built. This is only when there is a mismatch in the system. So we'll use the filters up here, and you kind of look. So I built decks, physically decks. That is, I built a 0R deck, a Thrawn deck, and then these unassigned, these are the ones we just created. You can kind of manage them as well. They haven't been put into a deck yet, but you can see that they exist and they're unassigned. So we've put the slips together, we haven't put them in a deck. So this build virtual cards and the disassembling of virtual cards is kind of, if your set 25 comes out and you realize, hey, all the commons and uncommons, or even maybe the rares, you're just going to build them all. You're going to build 2 of each or something. So you can kind of track that you've already built them or something like that. Using these other filters, you can select, okay, I only want to see cards from, virtual set, the one that we've actually built. Virtual set 14, is that the 17? So, because I built a 0-hour, there's 3 canyons, and we built a Unita as well. So in that case, they were built. We used the backing card that's correct, and so on and so on. So there's buttons up here again that run scripts, so you can select all, select none. You can, once you've selected them, you can disassemble them, and then you can also reset all these filters if you want. So that's kind of the manual process of building and disassembling virtual cards. So I've also rolled this up into the build a deck feature as well. So build a deck is kind of where the big action happens in this spreadsheet. So you have your full count of cards in. Every card that you're going to. I'm just going to hide these while we talk. The system knows every card that you own, how many of each. It knows that you imported a GEMP Decklist, and so now it's time we're just going to build a deck. So all of the deck lists that you've imported become available here. Again, these are not physical decks that have been built. These are just the deck lists that you have saved. So you've saved these in the system. So in this case, we'll go ahead, we'll build a Raltier Ops here. So the first thing is we need to give it a name, because this is just the deck list name, but you may build 2 or 3 of them, 4 of them. Something like defensive shields or something, you might build a couple. You can also use this if you're loaning cards. You could build a GEMP deck list that's the cards you're loaning to somebody, and you can call this, loaned cards to Jack. And then you build the deck list, and those cards come out of your inventory. That you can look at that list and see, hey, I loaned these 10 cards to you or something. I'm not putting a limit on how many cards here. As it gets longer and longer, above about 100, it kind of starts to slow down. So, be nice with it. But, if you're loaning 5 or 6 cards, it's a nice way to track it. You could build a deck. You could build a deck that's the cards you're loaning, and then you know that you loan them, and you can put somebody's name on it. So the next option here is that if you want to include the starting effect in the build. So when you export from GEMP, it puts the anger, fear, and aggression, or was it knowledge and defense, in the deck list. And so your deck list is 60 cards. But a lot of people, and talking to a lot of people, and myself included, keep that with the shields themselves, right? It's not actually part of the deck. As far as if you built 5 decks, you're not going to have 5 anger, fear, and aggressions in all 5 decks, one in each deck. You're going to have one built. So if you want to include it, you can. If you don't, that's okay too. So then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to import the deck list. So what this is going to do is it's going to look at that saved deck list, and it's going to go through every card in the deck list, and it's going to find what options are available for that particular card. So in this case, within the system, we've told it that we've built a Thrawn card list, and we've built a 0-hour card list. So again, we're looking at a dark side here. So it's looking and saying, okay, some of these cards might be in a Thrawn deck list, and it's going through and it's looking at your deck list. It's looking at what virtual cards you've built, and it's coming back with pull downs that are appropriate for each card. And so it's going to run that. It's going to hide some buttons, show some buttons, and then we're going to come back here. So we're good to go. So you'll see every card is in here. Multiples are listed individually because you're going to do a different action theoretically for each card, right? So 3 Emperor Palpatines, we're going to be doing a different action maybe for each one. So, right off the bat, anything that is green is it means there was really only one choice available, right? Mara Jade with the lightsaber was not in any of your existing decks that you've built. You haven't built a virtual card with her or anything, so the only choice is to create a new virtual card, right? You're going to print that slip and build a card. There's no other choice for that. Whereas, this Moff Gideon, you can build a new virtual card for that deck, which then gives you the choice of your backing card, or you can steal it from the existing deck. And, again, the system doesn't know what you want to do. You just got to tell it. So in this case, maybe we'll create a new virtual card. So what you'll see as well is it gives you kind of the status here. So Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, in this sample data, you own 2 of them. So there's one in your Thrawn deck, right? So it says, do you want to use the unassigned physical card, or do you want to use the card that's in the Thrawn? So we'll use the unassigned one. With the Emperor Palpatine, what you run into as well is we only own 2, and this deck calls for 3. So if you try to grab 3, it's going to know, and it's going to give you a red error here, kind of watch out for you. So what you need to do in this case is there's what's called a need list, and so we'll add it to the need list. That's kind of a buy list or a borrow list or something like that, right? So we need one more Emperor Palpatine. 5th brother, we haven't built any. You'll see here there's 12,000 backing cards available. What that means is this is a full slip. So the backing card you have can be anything. It defaults in this pull down. So in some cases, C slips or half slips, you don't get the choice, right? It's static. Kirkanos, the only choice for his virtual backing card is Kirkanos. But 5th brother, it'll default to the what you call maybe preferred backing card. But if you wanted to change that to something else, blaster rifle, I got a lot of blaster rifles, although his backing card isn't uncommon at all. Maybe, and you can type these in too. You don't have to scroll down and find it, but we'll give him a blaster as well, right? So you kind of want to make sure it's the Dark side, maybe Blaster Scope. Okay, so you're telling the system, when I build this deck, this is the backing card I'm going to use. So it'll kind of go through. So, Grand Moff Tarkin, you have a couple in a deck built, and it's going to differentiate them because theoretically you may have used a different backing card. But we have enough to make 2 virtual cards. Morgan Elsmith, we got plenty of backing cards for her. And again, the loading time on these varies based on connection speed and where it's at in thinking that. But Grand Inquisitor, we can make a new one. Twi'lek Advisor's fine. Our Sand card, we'll make a new one too. Image of the Dark Lord. Why not? This one, hey, I don't want to, keep it like that. And you don't have to use the mouse. You can kind of hit enter, and as you go through these pull downs, especially these short ones, you can go from there. So, Eli Vanto, Dreadnought. Yeah. So here's all of our decks or our choices. They're all green. If you tried to make a deck that wasn't green, it would tell you to check the row. So it does some checking, at least. I tried to do some checking to help you out if you miss something. But what you're looking for is all green. And then now we're going to tell it, okay, time to actually sit down. We're going to build this deck. So it's going to go through. It's going to give you a warning. You want to build the deck. Let's build it. So again, now it's going to start pulling cards and moving cards. So some of these are going to turn red. Some are going to turn yellow. That's okay. Script's still running. It's thinking. This will all just go away when it's done. Again, because it's a spreadsheet versus like a web app or something like that, it's a little rudimentary in some choices. So we'll let this run. This one takes a little bit. Basically, what it's doing is it's looking at everything you have, all your choices, and it's saying, okay, you chose this one. And it's going to go put it in grab a virtual card or make a slip. So builds the deck. It's going to ask you if you want to reset. Theoretically, you could build the same deck again. Something like Shields or something. If you're building 2 sets, there's no reason to reset. But we reset. So what happened? It did everything we told it to. So it grabbed those cards and put them in that deck. So what we get is a build a deck summary. And so this is for our deck, Raltier Ops. It gives us a list of everything that we need to do. And this is kind of what I was looking for when I originally set out to build this. Is I have a bunch of decks built, 6 decks built from different events, and it's time to sit down and build a new deck for a new event. And I need to know where my cards are. And so it says, okay, you only own 2 Emperor Palpatine, so right now we don't own one of the cards. These are the cards that we need to pull from inventory. That is, your deck boxes or your shelves or whatever. These are the virtual cards we're going to have to build. And then these are the cards to move from other decks. So we got 4 cards to move. So we got to go into in this case, we've only built 1 deck, so Thrawn deck. We need to get the 2 Emperors. We need to get the Imperial Arrest Order Secret Plans. And we need to get the Force Push. And we need to take those from the Thrawn deck. And, it's the Emperor Palpatine or the Imperial Arrest Order with this backing card, and the Force Push with this backing card. Again, if you didn't use an original or the preferred backing card, it would tell you. So, the virtual cards to build, this now says, okay, you need a 5th Brother slip from virtual set 13. You have picked that you're going to use the default backing. And then this backing card's from A New Hope, and it's a character. So, again, talking to some people, I organize my physical cards by character, effect, interrupt, and then alphabetically. Other people do it by set. So I kind of gave both options here. So you can go and, you can copy and paste this. Copy and copy and paste this whole thing into a new tab or a new sheet and sort by card set or sort by type, so that you can go and find, you get a list, you get a pull list, you can print it out that says, I need to get all these cards out of inventory, out of my boxes. And then, I got to go and I got to print these slips. And maybe you've already printed these slips, some of them, maybe you haven't. And so that's where, which ones you got to put in the VKit. And, right now we're not dealing necessarily with the AIs, virtual slip AIs, and choosing those and that type of thing. So when you get to the VKit, for something like Van E, or Van A, Grand Inquisitor, you can use the border breaking one, or you can use the regular one, and you kind of go from there. So that's kind of the big overview. You can also see a couple other things here. There's just kind of a management tool, like if you wanted to delete a deck list just because they start to get long or something like that, you can definitely come in, you can rename them or delete them. We imported this one just now, so we'll just go ahead and delete it. And it's going to run and kind of delete the data here to show that kind of get it out of the system. And again, these are just the sample ones. It's the day 1 and day 2 decks from the top 8 guys from Worlds. There's a blank one if you just want to load that in too. So this just kind of gives you a couple things made and a couple things to build. So it's been deleted. This will then clear out here. And now when you go, no longer in the pull downs. So likewise, we could delete right now because the Thrawn deck is only 55 cards, right? We pulled 4 cards out. So maybe, we're going to cannibalize it a little bit and then we're going to end up deleting it. So you can go ahead and delete it if you want or not. So that's kind of the quick rundown. The other tools that we kind of skipped over at the beginning. One is just a single card finder. So essentially, you can pick a card, right? So what was it? Blaster rifle that we ended up making a couple things off of. Our 5th brother, right? So it will, kind of say, oh, you haven't made any virtual cards with this preferred backing card. You own 6 of them, or you own 12, I guess. 6 from Premiere, and in this case, just because this is goofy sample data, you own 6 from the Death Star 2 starter, and 6 from White Border here. So I guess you own 18. But it tells you, oh, you put one in a deck, right? So, if you did Ron, V, and it does the same thing. So it gives you a little warning. It's a full slip virtual card. So in this case, the preferred backing card is Grand Admiral Thrawn. So 2 of the preferred backing cards are in the deck Thrawn. And you also have a built one that's in your Waltier Ops, right? So in this case, the data says you don't own the foil, right? So if you had some foils in your count, it would show those here. It kind of gives you the overview there. Dark Lord Sith was another one where we moved one of them, right? So we own 2 from Special Edition in this sample. One is in the Thrawn deck, one is in the Rops deck. So, if you were looking for one and you didn't remember, right, because your in-person events are, every couple months and you forget where you put things, and, maybe you built a deck 2 years ago and it's sitting in there. This will kind of track, hey, you got one hiding in here, especially as you get low or the rarer cards or that type of thing. If you all of a sudden need one, it's there and it's there to find. So that's kind of this card finder tool. And then the last thing that I did, this is more for collecting versus actually building decks, is it's a missing card filter, right? So you can pick some sets and you can pick a quantity cutoff. Then you can say, give me here a report of the cards that fit this criteria, right? So the cards that I own less than one of from all of these sets. And in this case, the sample data, I didn't give you the AI, right? So, but we can set that to 3, right? In that case, you're probably not going to have any of the rares. I think I set all the rares to 2 for the sample data, but so it'll give you a list. It'll say, okay, you own 2 of these. So if you're trying to build a master set and then have a working set, maybe you set that cutoff to, and I didn't put the game aids in either, but maybe you set that cutoff to 2, right? I want to own at least 1 of every card, and so and then have 1 that I can work with. Or maybe your play set is, maybe you're coming from Magic the Gathering and you want 4 of every card, right? So okay, if I want 4 of every card, and you can uncheck these as you go. I'm missing these New Hope cards, and in this case, because it's the sample data, I think I gave you 6 commons and 3 uncommons. So you're missing every uncommon and rare. But it'll give you a report and kind of help you sort through what you're missing, especially if you want different quantities of stuff, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to go build a master set. You pull that out, and you're like, but I still want 2 of every one, or that I want to check, right? So it's, what do I have 3 of? And give me the report. So I know I'm going to pull one of those out, and then I want kind of 2 to work with of the rares and things like that. So kind of nice tool that I use to kind of complete my sets back in the day. Figure I just include it for people to use. So that's kind of the quick and dirty overview of this. Again, there's instructions, kind of describes. I tried to put little things about what each sheet does here, and then as you get into each one, kind of the steps on how to work it. I think I sent this out to some people on the 15th of January to kind of try out. Added some buttons. They came out with the 2025 full slip list, so those have been added in as full slips. I'm making this video now, and then I'm going to put it out to everybody here to have. So kind of the big thing is I'm going to build another tab that just updates the data. So when I come out with version 103, there'll be an updater tab to move. So if you put your counts in, if you put your built decks in, it'll move to the next sheet, because each sheet is, each version you can't necessarily pull new versions. So you're basically grabbing a new sheet. But there'll be a script, or an app script in this case, to move that updater over. And then the other thing I kind of want to do in the short term is for deck management. Right now you can kind of see that there's 55 cards, but without getting into spreadsheets and those are kind of where they're stored. There's some hidden tabs here that are kind of showing all that and kind of holding this data. And you really don't, if you want to treat this as just buttons and saving things, you don't want to be messing with these, right? I don't necessarily want a tool where people have to come in and delete a row if they're going to take a card out, or add a row in if they're adding a card, or I'm changing this force push to the combo card. So now I got to go and I got to find the GEMP ID, the backing card's GEMP ID, and that kind of thing. And I kind of want to build this as another sheet that allows people to manage it from there. So if you're gonna, you got your 2 decks, your Thrawn deck and your Raltier Ops deck, and I'm gonna bring both of them to the event. And the Rops deck is built, but I might decide the morning of that I want to switch over to the Thrawn deck. So a printout or something that you can kind of make that says, hey, if to switch from Rops to Thrawn, here's the cards you pull out, or to switch from, your My Kind of Scum to, which decks you're essentially going to make whole, which means you're stealing from other decks, or, hey, I just really all I want to do is change 1 card in Rops. The way the tool's set up now, you got to delete this, load the new deck list in, rebuild remake the deck, and then it'll, to correct it. But if it's just like 1 card, what I'll do is kind of make a new sheet that'll, or a new tab here that'll allow you to kind of just with pull downs some checkboxes probably or something. So something to work on. Those are kind of the short-term things you should see here in the next couple months, depending on what time I have and that type of thing. The medium-term stuff, the big thing is the last errata dates. So as erratas come out, you're adding erratas to physical cards, even if they're not technically a virtual card. And so you're theoretically putting a slip on that card. And then if they, when you built that virtual card or you put that slip on, right? If you are vigilant about putting it in the tool, it'll track, okay, I made that virtual card on, February 10th. And then if on February 11th, errata comes out for that card, you could pull this up, an unupdated version of this later, so that when you go to build a deck or right before a tournament or something, you can not only see, okay, I need to, I'm going to build a ROPS deck and I'm going to move some cards, but then it's, you have to print these new virtual slips because the errata has changed or something. So it's a lot of backdating and things like that to go through PC announcements to see when erratas actually happened. And again, to kind of create an out-of-date thing. So it's a work in progress. It's got kind of everything frameworked out, but again, time. And I'm happy to take feedback as well. If a lot of people want it, or nobody wants it, then I'll prioritize. But the other thing is, right now for a backing card, you're just selecting the backing card, right? You're selecting Thrawn as your backing card for Thrawn. Great. But you're not specifying, okay, it was the one from Reflections, or is it the foil? The system, the tool, is not tracking which one you're using, which is mostly to keep it lightweight. As you start trying to add that, it becomes more of a database. And again, Sheets, Google Sheets, Excel, they're not full databases. So, if you're trying to put this on, you're essentially IDing every card in your collection. If you have 20 foils and 20 black borders, then when you go to build one, you have to identify each of those cards. So you have 40 entries instead of one as your backing card potentials. And so it's work, and I don't know. It'd be more of a performance thing as I develop it to go from there. And then same with the build a deck. Ideally, maybe making the VKit importable, so it saves it as a TXT that you can then drop into VKit, and maybe making some printable PDFs for the inventory polls that have nice little graphics or organization of things. So, and then kind of long term, again, it's just based on feedback. I'm a back end developer guy, but I could figure out some front end stuff to do this too. Is moving this out of spreadsheets completely, so that you actually have a database that you're working with, and you put it on a deck builder. I know there's a deck builder website out there, but then putting your inventory in, building decks off the deck builder, but keeping it all on the web at least, your interface would look a lot better. It'd be a lot more snappier. And then also things like identifying individual cards in your collection. Each card could have essentially an ID, and you're not adding stress to the system. So Jared and David have been maintaining the original card list that I expanded off of, so thanks to them. I am very reachable. I got my email here, which you will also see if you ever run this sheet or the web app, but also on Discord, Slack, the PC forums, just Jack Bear. So you can find me to give me feedback, ask questions. If something's not working for you, if you have an error or anything like that, please feel free to reach out. I hope people use this, and I'm happy to fix errors if people are using this. What I can do to facilitate making people's life when you have to sit down and build a deck as easy as possible. That was my goal, to build it, and I think this can help a lot of people in building physical decks because you can track your cards better. Again, but the big thing is the data you put in is going to be the quality that you get out. So having your counts accurate. For some people that already exists. For other people, I'm sorry, but you're gonna, in order to use the tool, you kind of have to get a count of your cards. That's the legwork I can't do. So that's where that is. The other thing that I want to add here is when you go ahead and open the sheet just for the first time, not any other time. So we'll open the sheet fresh. This is this blank one. The very, very first time you run a script. Oh, it'd help if I actually went to the one with a script. The very, very first time you run a script, you are going to get a request for authorization. And that is to run the app script. So you are copying this into your Google Drive Anywhere, into your Google Sheets. So you are now the owner of this. So this is essentially authorizing the script that you own to view the script that is now in your Google Sheet, right? So this SWCCG MRP script that controls all the buttons, you are authorizing yourself essentially to use it. And the warning is that the owner of this spreadsheet, which is you, it's not me because you're copying it into your ownership, is you're allowing that script to edit this particular spreadsheet. It's something Google does with their permissions. If I shared this, if this was a shared spreadsheet that a bunch of people were working on, you'd have to be authorized. Each person would authorize. So you just have to allow it, and then from there, it'll run the whatever script you clicked on. It'll never ask you again. So once you're kind of authorized, you no longer have to do it again. But it's just something Google needs for their authorization, because you can share sheets with multiple people. It gives you the warning that if user Jim is opening Jack's spreadsheet, Jim gets a warning that says, hey, Jack's spreadsheet contains something that can read and write onto the spreadsheet that you're trying to edit. Which in this case, you're the owner of the spreadsheet. You're the only user of the spreadsheet. I guess you could share it with somebody else, collaborate. But it's kind of a circular logic. You're giving yourself permission to edit the sheet that you already own, but something that just has to get done. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help them, or happy to answer them, happy to help in any way. When you're using this, if you don't want some of these tabs, if you don't care about missing ones, and in this case, this is the blank sheet. But we can open mine, right? Where I don't own 6 cards from Premiere. Okay, but I don't care, right? We're building decks. You can hide all these. I don't need to find cards right now. I can hide them. The instructions tab, if I needed to open that up, it gives you a link. It'll say, okay, it's hidden. Now you can unhide it. So, there's no reason to have all of these open at once, but they all start that way out. So again, thanks for your time. Hopefully this video wasn't too long and you can use this tool. Thank you very much.